This is Rockin' with Jam Man is with Lance Lopez. So how you doing, man?
Man, I'm hanging in there, Jam Man. We got a new record out called Trouble Is Good. Came out on the 14th of July, and we're really excited about it. We got some really uh heavy blues rock, and I say rock heavily on that songs on it, and we're really happy about it, man. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
For those who are watching and unfamiliar with you, can you tell me all about yourself?
Well, I was born in Louisiana, and I lived there till I was about 12. I started playing guitar there about 8 years old, and I learned pretty much by ear. My dad gave me a guitar for Christmas and a Chuck Berry record, and I started to teach myself guitar. And I grew up on early rock and roll. You know, that's the first music I started to play. And then I was a little kid in the 80s, you know, and so a lot of great guitar music was happening at that time, you know, AC/DC, Van Halen, and all the other great bands that were, you know, around that time, Kiss and Rush, all these great guitar bands, you know. And so I got to see a lot of those bands live as a kid. And but I was always drawn to kind of the generation of players behind them from the 70s, you know, and I was listening to bands like Led Zeppelin and Cream, and then Hendrix kind of set the bar for me really early on as a kid too. So when I turned about 12 years old, my mother moved to Dallas and my father moved to New Orleans. And so I moved with my mom to Dallas. And prior to us moving, I was jamming with other kids in the neighborhood, you know, and we were you know, having jam sessions and stuff like that. And kids would say, "Man, you're playing too bluesy," you know, like it wasn't a good thing. Like it was because everybody was shredding and tapping and all the things, right? And so, man, I was like, you know, I went home and told my dad, and he goes, "Son, sit down," you know, that whole thing, and put on a BB King record, and he introduced me to BB King. And that was almost as impactful as getting introduced to Jimi Hendrix for me. You know, it was just like earth shattering. And it was like, man, that was the sound that I was looking for. And then Angus Young, you know, because I was going to see AC/DC when I was a little kid, started to make more sense to me. You know, his guitar playing, it was high powered blues, you know. And so, you know, we moved to Texas. I moved to Texas with my mom, and I opened the newspaper and I saw there was a picture of BB King, and I asked my mom, can we go see BB King? And she took me. And so we got to the BB King concert. So I thought, everybody had these T-shirts on that had SRV on them, and I was like, "What is that?" And almost to the point where I was annoyed. You know, I was just like, "Dude, what is SR? Like, well, I don't even know what that is." And everybody in the place had a T-shirt on. We were in Dallas, you know, and then BB King came out and played, and I got to see him live, and it was just mind blowing. And then the lights went down, and our local rock DJ from at that time, it was Q102 in Dallas. It's a great rock and roll station, Q102 FM. And the DJ came out and she announced that since it was his hometown show, Stevie Ray Vaughan was going to come out and headline the concert that night. And I was like, who? And then out came Stevie Ray Vaughan. And so that's when at that moment I went, wow, playing the blues is cool. Playing bluesy is a cool thing. And also too, like I just mentioned, Jimi Hendrix had set the bar for me. Like when I first heard Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland and Axis Bold as Love and those records, I mean, there was really that, and then everything else for me, as far as I'm concerned, almost still that way today. But you know, once I pretty much kind of discovered some of that music, you know, like I said, I'd never seen a guitar player try to emulate that or play it live until seeing Stevie Ray Vaughan. And you know, that was pretty impactful. You know, that was very impactful. I mean, it was life changing, really. And then watching BB King and Stevie Ray Vaughan play together was pretty much the first blues jam I'd ever witnessed, like I'd ever seen, really, that I know of, that I'm aware of, that was actually deemed, a blues concert, blues jam. So that was very impactful on me as well, being a 12-year-old boy, watching BB King and Stevie Ray Vaughan trade licks was the first experience I had to a blues jam. So after that, I kind of pretty much knew that I wanted to be a blues guitar player. The next weekend, I went and saw John Mayall and the Blues Breakers and Foghat, the British, some British blues with, and Foghat with Lonesome Dave, and then I just started to just really, devour everything blues, from the acoustic music of the Delta in the 20s and the 30s to the electric music of the 50s and the early 60s in Chicago, to the English blues of the mid 60s, the early mid 60s, and then trailing it back down, and everything began to make sense to me. Led Zeppelin, Cream, Stones, and then into modern rock times. And so it was an interesting way to trace it all the way back around. So that's what I did pretty much. And I started to play in bands, and I moved to New Orleans with my father. And once I moved to New Orleans, my father then saw how advanced I had become playing guitar. And he immediately said, well, we live in New Orleans now, we're going to go out and play live. And that's what we did. My dad took me out, and I started sitting in with bands, and bands would hire me, and then another band would hire me, and then on and on and on. And that's pretty much how it went down there. I was playing three gigs in a night. We would play a happy hour show. From 5, I would get home from school. I'd get out of school at 3:30, and I'd get home about 3:45. And then my first gig would be at 5 o'clock. So I would play from 5 to 8 with one band in Fat City, and then I would go down to the French Quarter and play another gig with another band, from 9 to midnight or whatever, and then come back to Fat City and play an after-hour gig from like 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. and then go home, hopefully get home by 5:30 or almost 6 and take a nap, and then go to school at 8:30. So that's kind of how that went for a while. And and then I just started playing in bands, and I got hired as a sideman with some great R&B and blues artists, which then helped me on to launch my solo career.
So what gives you the blues? Wine, women, songs? What is it?
Living life, man, living life. I mean, it's not one particular thing, Jam Man. It's living life, and it's not all bad. The blues isn't all bad, man. It's just about how you express those things out in your music. You know what I mean? And that's, for me, and it's not always like, hardcore times and downtrodden times and that. It's also, you can write a song about, just getting a paycheck, or, how cute your girlfriend is, or, whatever, how much you like pumpkin pie. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to always be, if, my baby left me, my dog ran away, I've got a flat tire. It's also, good stuff. So I think it's about the emotion. And I think that's one of the most important things about the blues is it's about, of course, there's the scale and the minor pentatonics that we do vocally and guitar wise, that's kind of the basis of all kind of heavy rock and pop and everything else, and rock and roll and pop music. But the fact of it is that the emotion from your heart is kind of poured out into your music. And so I think that comes from daily living. I mean, and I think everybody can relate to it. It's like, man, when you don't want to get up and go to school in the morning, that's the blues. You know what I'm saying? When you don't want to get up and go to work, that's the blues. When your girlfriend and you get in a fight, that's the blues. when you get a new girlfriend, that's the blues. Like you can sing about that. You know, it's not always about her leaving. It's about finding a new girl too, or or whatever you like. What your favorite car? You know, a lot of blues songs about cars and the favorite cars. So it's the expression, Jam, man. It's all about the expression and from your head to your heart to your hands.
So the new album Trouble Is Good just dropped on Friday, and it was pretty good. But who hurt you, bro?
That's a good one, man. Dude, it's just a lifetime of the blues, man. Lifetime on the road, man. It's like, and that's the blues. It's like, it's a culmination of writing these songs from my personal experience, and then also, hanging with friends of mine, and hearing their stories, and kind of like talking about it together and going, man, I went through this. Well, man, I went through that too. Oh man, I thought it was just no, man, I went through, and so a lot of these songs are also that, it's a fact of they can be relatable to different circumstances, not just relationships. They could be any kind of relation, not like an intimate relationship, but any kind of relationship, between anybody. So I think that's the thing most about it. But yeah, man, a lifetime of living life, Jim, man, and having the ability and the gift to write about it and to write songs about it. It's like that's the great thing about the blues.
I mean, don't be afraid, man. Just let it all out and just put out a diss track to the person. I mean, like, I wouldn't let someone hurt me like that. Like, not me personally. I wouldn't take for disrespect.
That's awesome, man. Maybe next time, maybe on the next episode, I may open up more. We may get more into That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
So tell me about the writing process on this album.
Well, I mean, a lot of it was between Joey Sykes and I. Joey Sykes produced the record, of course. And Joey and I started working together in LA years ago when I was in a band called Supersonic Blues Machine. And we started working there. He had some songs that we were working on together, and then he worked on some songs on my solo album I did in that time. I did 3 albums pretty much consecutively out in Los Angeles in a period of about 2.5, 3 years maybe. And we just recorded this big massive body of work, and then it came out as consecutive albums. And Joey was helping me and us write some songs for that. And so when I moved to Nashville, and we had songs left over that we've been working on. And when I moved to Nashville, Joey had strong ties in Nashville and had written here for a long time. So he got excited, and he wanted to write an album and produce a record. And he said, hey man, let's just me and you work together, because we were working in between a different producer. And now he said, let's just you and I work together directly and let's make a record. And I was like, hell yeah, bro, let's do it. We still got some songs left over. I've been working on some new stuff since I moved to Nashville, blah, 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 all that. And then we had gigs coming in from Europe, and we were like, oh man, we're ready to get back on the road, because I'd taken a big break when I moved to Nashville. And dude, COVID happened, bang, COVID landed. And we were like, whoa. So, and then we were already making plans to make a record. We were already kind of talking about it, and I was pulling together all my ideas, and so was he. And we were trying to figure out what songs we had left over from last time. And, we were kind of getting into album mode. And then COVID happened. So it was good, because it shifted me into then a home recording situation. And that's exactly what we did. It thrust me into getting a home set up, and, getting into, the whole audio side of home recording. And so the process began with then me laying down my ideas and or sending those ideas out to LA to Joey. Joey then taking those ideas, kind of adding his whatever to it, tracking it with a band, you know, with the rhythm section in LA. And we had some great musicians that showed up too, by the way, Jam Man. I mean, we had a whole legendary cast of bass players and drummers and keyboard players that I'm just so grateful that showed up to play on the record, man. You know, just some iconic cats, truly. And so and then Joey would send me back the track, and I would then overdub guitar and vocals at my house in Nashville. You know, so that's kind of how the process began. And then once things began to open up during COVID, you know, that's kind of what it looked like during COVID. And I would have guys come to my house in Nashville. I would be working on songs. And so I would make big meals, usually like on Sundays, Saturdays, or Sundays. I would make a bunch of food, you know, and a bunch of like down home, like, you know, Cajun food, like gumbo and all kinds of stuff like that, you know, big stuff like, or spaghetti, you know, something big, and invite all the guys over. And we had a whole backline set up, and then we would jam, and I would bring the ideas and I would flesh out my ideas and so I could work them out. And we called that house the Jam House. And so I began recording tracks there. You know, we were hanging mics from the stairwells and doing the whole thing. It was great. And then I was sending those tracks back to LA. And then I moved from that house to a different house with some other guitar players here in Nashville, which we call the House of Tone, which is filled from wall to wall with guitars and amps. And we're always over there dialing in guitars and amps. And it's all working guitar players that are on the road with artists and different bands. And so we're all working guys. So we're all trying to figure out what works and what works live and what sounds great and what works and what does not work. So we call it the House of Tone. So I finished a lot of guitar tracks and vocals there. And then we went to New York once everything opened up to work with the great Bobby Rondinelli from Rainbow and Black Sabbath, and Danny Miranda from Blue Oyster Cult and Queen. And we went up there to work with an engineer named Bob Stander, who had worked with Dweezil Zappa, and Adam Minkoff, who also works with Dweezil Zappa and Doyle Bramhall. So we kind of wanted to go up to Long Island and record in New York, and we both had deep, you know, Joey's from New York. I lived in New York City, had deep roots in New York City, put out the Live in New York City record that I recorded at BB King's. And so, you know, so it was a great venture out for the first time after lockdown, was going back to New York and back and recording. And so that's pretty much where the record was recorded, pretty much LA, Nashville, and New York. So, pretty much, and New Jersey. There were some things done in New Jersey by a great drummer, John Hummel, but we had great musicians on the record. I mean, Brian Tichy from the Dead Daisies, and Jurgen Carlson from Government Mule, the great Greg Bissonette, you know, Herman Matthews, you know, and the whole slew of people that showed up to work on the record was incredible. It was incredible, Jam, man. It was really, really cool.
You started playing in bars by 14, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember your first beer?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So this album is the first in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So when you were talking about the lockdown, did you ever have an idea of quitting, or did the lockdown help you more?
What you mean quitting? What? Quitting what?
Music or
Music. Oh man, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was. I think it was. I think everybody kind of went through that. I don't know. Yeah, it was. There was a kind of a dark, confused period, you know, for a minute, and then I definitely had to get out of myself, man. You know, I had to get out of myself in that instance, and think of others, man. You know, and I had to think of other people and help some people, you know, and that really kind of shifted things around for me personally. that, and then, yes, it definitely helped. I mean, it took that time to really cope with stuff I had kind of already gone through, like we were talking about earlier. It took some time to really to process with these songs and to work on them and to kind of go through it. And I think, that is the point of Trouble Is Good. I mean, that's the point of the title, talking about the despair of that time period. I mean, it really is, Jam Man, it really is an era piece. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's capturing that era of the pandemic and lockdown and kind of all the stuff that was going on during that time, and kind of reflections of a snapshot kind of that, really, some of that. And it's the fact of it being that kind of era piece was what we really wanted to try to get across, really, with a lot of the with the stories and kind of what we were talking about, in the record.
What do you think about AI?
It's interesting, man. I mean, it's a trip, right? Like I got to tell on myself, man, because I've really been trying to do a lot better, Jam Man, but I'm about to rat myself out. Okay, you ready? So, dude, we have this place down here called Checkers, right? I pulled in there and I got a double cheeseburger with bacon, bro. And a large fry, dude. There you go. There you have it. And so I pulled up into in East Nashville. It's the jam. And y'all in East Nashville know what I'm talking about. Checkers over there's rocking. Those fries are killer. I roll in there. Right? I roll in to get my double cheeseburger. I'm already going, man, do I really want to do this? I roll up in there and I get try to get my, and dude, I didn't even talk to a person, bro. It was like an AI was taking my order, and I'm like trying to, so you know how we like cheeseburgers, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, cats like to do different things with their cheeseburgers, man. Like sometimes I want grilled onions, man. Sometimes I want some onion rings on my cheeseburger. Sometimes I want bacon, onion rings, and macaroni and cheese, dude. If you got it in there, hey man, can you just put a spoon of macaroni and cheese on something? Just put it on there, bro. Just hand it up. You know what I'm saying? Just, bro, work with me, Jam Man. That's, you know what I'm saying? So, dude, I want to do something like that. Like, hey, man, like maybe grill the tomatoes, or just take half the tomatoes, or just, do it. See, because where I'm from, we have a certain in Texas, we have a certain burger chain that's a big W in it. It's orange looking, and you can go there and get all kinds of crazy ways to do your burger. Like they do all this stuff on there. So that was one thing that I thought was interesting. Not to digress and sidebar off into cheeseburgerism with you tonight, Jam Man. However, AI won't let me customize my cheeseburger, bro. And that's, you know what I'm saying?
Breaks your heart.
I mean, that's kind of a thing, dude. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you like your cheeseburger, Jam Man? How do you eat your cheeseburgers?
How do I eat my cheeseburger? How
Yeah.
I like it. I just like sometimes I don't even go crazy. Well, no, I do go crazy with it. Like sometimes when I do get my food, I get a burger with bacon and cheese, double patty, and I get some French fries on my nuggets that I also get, and I put it on top of that. That's what I do.
Dude, that's what I'm talking about, bro. See, that's what I'm saying. So when you're trying to do that with the AI, are they going to know to do all that?
No.
Sometime. Yeah, I mean, it's a trip, man. It was like not letting me get I was trying to like get a milkshake with, I don't know, something. Yeah, I don't even know, man. It's like I couldn't do it, but it vibed me out. So I just had to like take, and so I think the point was I had to just take whatever it gave me. And that's what's kind of scary about it, dude, is hopefully it's not just going to give us whatever it wants to give us, right?
Let's hope it doesn't get its own like intelligence, like independent.
Isn't that crazy? Wow, that's a trip, man. Yeah, I didn't, think about that, right? The cheeseburger analogy. It's like it's just going to give you what it wants. I don't know. It's crazy.
So you've played with all the blues legends. Who was your favorite and why?
Oh man, God, there's so many, and it's so hard to say, but probably BB King. Working with BB was an honor. Like I don't even have words to even articulate what an honor it was to know and work with BB King. Seriously, I have no words. It was that monumental, especially for how he treated young artists, and all of us young blues guitar players, and a lot of my contemporaries at that time. And we were very young. I mean, we were in our early 20s at that time, and some of us teenagers, and BB was readily accepting of all of us, and I think he knew how important we were to carry the blues forward. And so yeah, I mean, and he was always gracious, man. Like every time I was backstage with BB, everybody made sure I had a plate of food and I had eaten, and that I was okay, and that was amazing, man. As a young dude, and just to be in that orbit and around that greatness was pretty monumental. Like I said, because watching him perform with Stevie Ray Vaughan as a 12-year-old boy was what had me play the blues, and then I was able to perform with him. So it was quite a monumental thing, and then just how gracious and loving and nurturing BB King always was. It was pretty incredible.
You played for Johnny Winter, right? Winter? Winter.
Well, Jim, I played with Johnny Winter. I didn't play. I wasn't in his band per se, but we toured together. And then we jammed, and then yes, we jammed a lot. And Johnny taught me a lot of stuff. But yeah, Johnny and I were really close and really good friends until he passed away. Yesterday was the anniversary. It was, I think, 9 years it's been.
What was Johnny like back then?
Um, it was amazing. I think for my relationship with Johnny was he was very happy that he had somebody else from Texas with him. And at one point, Johnny and I began to talk about Southeast Texas and that whole region. And at one point, we were almost thought we were related at some point on my mother's father's side, like my grandfather's side of the family. We were kept connecting it back and tracing it back and then crisscrossing between Louisiana and Texas in that area. And he loved that, man. He didn't really have anybody. He had left Texas in 1969 and he never moved back. And he at that point he had lived in New York City for almost 30 years and was living up in New England. And so he hadn't really talked a lot about that part of the world. And dude, it was amazing. I mean, and that was just the thing about it, is that I just, I had, from all like what I talked about, starting as a 12-year-old kid, devouring all of that music of the 20s and 30s, was where our bond really truly lay. I mean, that's where it was. I mean, it's like that's all we used to sit and listen to was Delta blues music. And then the thing about Johnny Winter was that he knew like a lot of where he knew these guys' addresses. Like he knew where like Blind Willie McTell lived on. In 1921, he lived here. In 1925, it was scary. It was scary. And so I would sit with Johnny and I would try to I don't want to sit there and write this stuff down, but it was like just to absorb as much of that information I could about those guys. Johnny knew everything about each one of those guys' lives, almost as if he was with them personally. So it was just that heavy, and then going over to his house in Connecticut and going through his old 78 Delta Blues record collections and all his records that he had, and sit and would listen and pull them out and put them on the turntable. And it was quite a really cool lesson from one of our true treasured heroes from Texas. And not only that, with the guitar world, it was quite an honor. And so my relationship with Johnny was to completely learn as much as I possibly could, not only guitar playing wise, but again, as a historical scholar of a United States heritage cultural situation, that is, which the blues, so.
My dad did his last interview. He didn't really talk that much.
Who's that?
Johnny Winter. My dad did his last interview
Oh,
before.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in his later years, man, he was just, he was ill, he was still traveling, he was still touring, he was still playing. But yeah, man, he was, we talked about it at times, man. And I had many vibrant conversations with Johnny, but yeah, later on towards the end of his life, it was he was at the twilight of his day, and I was really, really grateful to be there with him. And man, long live Johnny Winter.
Do you plan on going on tour this year?
We've got some dates actually this week. I'm playing Friday here in East Nashville at the Underdog, July 21st, and then I think we're up in Evansville, Indiana at Mojo's Boneyard, August 12th. And then starting Labor Day weekend, yeah, we're supporting the record. We start in Naples, Florida, and then we're doing Florida. We're doing some Midwest states. We've got Texas and Louisiana in the fall, Arkansas shows, a lot of stuff coming up next year too. So we keep our tour dates updated on our website at lancelopez.net. We have a little tour dates button and some bands in town calendar. So yeah, check it out.
What do you think about ticket prices getting super high for a lot of bands?
What do I think about that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a high operation cost, and so if I think if artists are operating at a high cost, they have to supplement that cost somehow, and so that's all I can really say about that, man. I don't really know. I'm not in the box office game or the ticket game, really. I just, I'm not real sure, man.
I mean, like, the prices are getting kind of crazy. Like, I wanted to see Pantera this year, but they were charging like $300 a ticket, and that's not even for the best seats. And like with Taylor Swift's concert, I didn't want to go to that, but like the ticket prices for them, I think it was like even like at least a couple grand to even get in. Like for one of the worst seats was at least a couple grand. Like it was yeah.
Wow. Sorry about that, Jam, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so crazy to me that, so when you put it into that perspective, Jam, man, it's like, dude, I remember going to my mother and asking her for $13.50 for a Kiss ticket. And dude, it was like borrowing $1 million, like literally. I had to have a presentation and like how many bags of leaves I was going to rake up and stack up like for 13, you know what I'm saying? So now, and you're telling me $300 for a ticket, and it's hilarious because it was like 13, like almost $14 to see Kiss when I was a little kid. To my parents was like, well, I remember going to my dad's office to ask for $20 to see Metallica on the And Justice for All tour. And he was like, dude, I don't even know who these guys are. And it was like $20 in 1989, So yeah, it's and now here we are. And in this era of $300 Pantera tickets, man, when I remember sneaking past Jeff Shattle at the door at the basement to to watch him for, that's crazy. Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, that's a trip they're doing that, man. With Zach and Charlie and with Rex and I got a lot of good friends that are out with them, and that's seems to be pretty cool.
What's the best venue you've ever played?
The best venue I've ever played? I don't know. That would probably have to be one of the coolest and best was Berg Stargard Castle over in Germany. I played a castle over there back long time ago, and it was really cool. We actually recorded some tracks there, and they re-released my first. It was on my first album tour, and it was a very interesting place. And they put us in like one of the main halls, and they were in the process of restoring this castle, and then we stayed in one portion of the castle, but there's been a couple of those castle gigs over in Europe that were super cool, but Berg Stargard had to have been probably the coolest.
What's the worst?
The worst venue would probably be the Rock Creek Roadhouse in Graham, Texas. It was pretty. The Rock Creek Roadhouse, where you walked in and the waitress, you know, she's got like the one spear tooth from the bottom, and she's like, "Don't drink the water," you know, and you're just like, "Uh-oh."
Uh-oh, here comes trouble.
The Rock Creek Roadhouse, buddy.
What's your favorite memory from playing the show?
Oh man, that's a good question. My favorite memory from playing the show. I don't know. I think playing, you know, to a degree of just satisfaction, man, always was the key. I mean, there were so many memorable shows with great artists, you know, that it's so hard to pinpoint one. You know, it's that moment where no matter who's on stage or which iconic performer or whatever, it's just that moment where everybody is, you know, dialed in and, you know, firing on all cylinders, you know, in a way that's the room feels it and you feel it and it's all together at once. And, you know, I've had that multiple times, you know, in my career, and that's one of the most adulating things I think can ever be when a band is finally working together and really well rehearsed and has been on the road and the songs sound great, and it's just that it's working like clockwork. It's like that. Those moments is where, you know, are my most favorite.
What is your worst?
Things not working. You know, guitars, strings breaking, amps blowing up, monitors are not working, you know, sound is bad, pedals are breaking, you know, frogs, locusts, you know, rivers of blood, you know, all those things.
What do
Yeah,
you
man.
do?
I mean, you know, just when stuff starts breaking and things aren't right and the vibe is wrong, or if the, you know, the band doesn't know the material and it's just, you know, not working on stage, it can be rough.
What do you do in your downtime for fun?
I cook a lot. I cook.
Any recipes?
Man, I've got a few. I've got a few, man. I've got a few. Yeah, they're kind of lengthy, but you know, may take some time to talk about. But yeah, man, I mean, my specialty is Creole food. You know, having that Louisiana heritage, I do a lot of the food from the city of New Orleans. You know, so I do a lot of that kind of, you know, specialty stuff, Creole like that. You know, for fun and at home, but. You know, and in my more recent times, man, I try to eat a lot leaner and a lot cleaner. So, you know, a lot portions are a lot smaller. So I don't tend to make a lot of it because you have to make a lot of it, you know, and it's super heavy food. So I usually make it for special occasions. You know.
What's your favorite dish to make?
Oh man, I don't know, probably gumbo.
Gumbo? Like gumbo?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do a couple different kind. I do like seafood gumbo. And I'll do a chicken and sausage andouille sausage, and then our family recipe is duck and andouille sausage and oyster. So that's also a fun one to make. It's really rich and hearty, really good for wintertime.
What's next for you?
We're getting ready to go out on the road. We got some shows coming up, and we're gonna go out and support Trouble Is Good. Playing this Friday night, July 21st at the Underdog with the great Larry Mitchell, the great Doug Doppler. Two big, great guitar players are coming in town. They're going to play their shows, and we're going to close it out with a set of original material. I've got R.J. Contreras, formerly of Reverend Horton Heat's band, playing drums with me, and great bass player from Nashville here, Jared Hoffman, playing bass. So it's going to be a pretty groovy little power trio gig we're going to do at the Underdog in East Nashville. And then really the tour jumps off Labor Day weekend, man. It's going to be, we're going to jump it off down in Naples, Florida at Z's Music Kitchen. And then it's, look for us to come to a town near you.
How do my followers follow you?
Man, you can find us on IG at Lance Lopez Guitarist. Our Facebook is Lance Lopez Band and Lance Lopez TX. But yeah, definitely we're very active on social media. So yeah, hit us up, and then we're real easy to find. So hit us up on Instagram at Lance Lopez Guitarist, and give us a follow and like some of our stuff. And yeah, lancelopez.net is the official website.
You got some cool merch, bro?
We do have some cool merch coming up. We got a lot of the physical stuff, but we're working on some more. This is the El Paso Sugar logo hat right here. We're going to be changing that pretty soon to Chicago Sugar. Stay tuned for that one. But that's for a whole nother episode.
Bro, you know you gotta hook up your boy with some fresh.
I got you, bro. Jam man. I got you, dog. I got you, dude.
And I need the stuff.
Dude, I got you. I got a package on the way, bro.
Appreciate you, bro.
Already, man.
All right, fun question time. You're on death row and it's time for your final meal. What's on the menu?
Yeah. The death row meal question. Dude, I don't know. I would probably have to. I don't know, man. I'd have to probably surf and turf it up, dude. I'd probably have to have me a big, nice bone-in ribeye, lobster tail, dozen shrimp. Yeah, probably have to be a surf and turf situation, bro.
So it's death row and time is over. How are you dying?
I don't, man. That's a good question. I'd like to think I would not be, man. That's a dark one, Jam, man.
If you could choose any superpower, what would you choose?
Oh man, I don't know. All the ones that Superman has. How about that? Can we bundle them into the Superman package? Can I just have?
Yeah, sure. You can do the Superman package.
I'll do the Superman bundle. How about that?
Okay. That's a good one. That's a good one. Just superpower. Superman.
Yeah.
Let's say you could choose any song ever written by any band and you can change that song to where you were the one who wrote it and it was your song. What song would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Oh man. That's another good one. So many albums are like flashing like past my face. I don't even know, man. That's such a good question. Anything by the Beatles, right? Anything by the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. Does that count as an answer?
Yeah,
anything by the Beatles.
That's what I said, to some people. You could live off of the royalties or just the money off of that song. All of that is yours. Choose any Beatles song and I promise you'll be a multi-millionaire at that point because of one of those songs. All right, man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for being on my show. Oh, the next time we talk is at the backstage on one of your shows. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
You're the man, Jam, man. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
See you, man. Keep rocking.
You too, bro. Later.
See ya.